It was a scene straight out of a movie. 4 masked robbers took 8 minutes to execute the largest heist in the last 100 years involving the most famous museum in the world. For 6 long days, they escaped capture, but as new details come to light, arrests are finally being made. Still, the world is left wondering how exactly they managed to pull it off, so today we are talking about the 2025 Louvre robbery. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, true crime, and the unknown. Here in Decoding December, it is time to break down yet another thing, this time not folklore, but an actual heist that happened recently. I am your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor Collins, and joining me hearing about this case probably not for the first time, but maybe all the details for the first time, Alfredo Diaz.
How did this happen? Like, that's my biggest question. In the year 2025, with all the different technologies and cameras all around, how did this happen in the first place? And it seemed like in such a simple way. So I'm very curious to see what the details are.
It's a very interesting case, and Task Force, full transparency, we are recording this in the middle of November because there's holidays and there's travel and everything, and so I will say some details could show up, but with everything we know, we've got a lot of what went down, how this unfolded. There's a lot of genius to this, there's a lot of mistakes to this on both parties for the robbers and the Louvre itself. I can't wait to crack into all the details. The only thing we really don't know at this juncture is the names of the individuals. We know that 4 are still being detained right now, and the police believe 1 suspect is still at large. We're going to break down every single facet of details, top to bottom. But it is a fascinating case because you're right, in 2025, you don't expect a full-on Ocean's 11 style heist to go down. And there are some details to this that make it feel very casual, but also a little bit more like Ocean's 8. If you remember them kind of dismantling the necklace and piecemealing the diamonds out in, I think, the kitchen.
I mean, that does seem like the smart thing to do. I feel like there are measures in place, especially for something like a watch or, say, like a collectible card that's worth tens of thousands, millions of dollars. You know what I mean? You don't want to have it in its actual case where it has a certification number and then just pop it online and be like, hey, this is the piece. You want to crack it out, maybe regrade it or something like that. So it's very interesting. And I wonder if there's certain little markings that come into play. Because I'm in like the comic book collecting world, and I'm like, oh, if a X-Men #1 gets stolen at a show, it's in a case, you crack it out, but still, that's a book that's like 75 years old. It'll have like little rips and tears that are very intricate to that specific book that people have photographs of. And so how do you take something like that and then resell it out in the market? And so like with these pieces, if they're so unique and intricate, how do you take that and resell that in the market when everyone's got their eyes like looking for it and these specific markings or the design, etc.? So very curious for that.
Yeah, dude, you are cracking into a very interesting point to the potential genius of this heist. There's a lot that went right and a lot that went wrong, depending on how you look at it. And I'm so eager to talk about this. I'll just crack into this topic specifically. That is part of why these particular pieces were stolen, because you're right. If you go after something as big in the Louvre as the Mona Lisa, which has been stolen before, what do you do with that? How do you sell like you're saying, the crown jewels? If it has so much historical value and so much provenance, you can't just take that to some dude on eBay. So yeah, it's part of why I think they targeted this particular gallery, these particular gems, because then, yes, you can break it down and at least sell it quickly, and maybe no one knows. But without further ado, we will dive into the case. I would be remiss if I didn't say redwebpod.com, right? This is the #1 way to support the show, allow us to continue researching really interesting topics like this. We have a lot of exclusives. This week in particular, we have the live recording on Wednesday of Break Room. This is our behind-the-scenes variety show. We do all sorts of things, whether it's just talking about our lives, catching up with one another, talking with the task force, or doing tier lists like we did recently for horror movies. So that's on Wednesday, usually, I believe, 6 p.m. Central Time. My memory isn't what it used to be. And then Friday,
6 p.m.
Yes, thank you, Christian. Man in the chair, keep me straight here. And then Friday, we have the recording of last month's break room. So if you want to see that, they come out on a month delay. But without further ado, I'm very excited. Let's dive into it, okay? On October 19th, 2024, 4 thieves stole 8 pieces of jewelry from the Louvre in Paris, France. The robbery occurred at 9:30 a.m., just 30 minutes after the museum opened its doors. 2 thieves would keep watch down on the street, while 2 others rode up to the second-floor balcony on the south side of the museum using what's called a monte-meuble, or basically a bucket truck. We have an image of the exact truck in the exact location as it rolled up and as it was parked. If you want to take a look at that, it's the first one here for you, Fredo.
That's the thing too. They did it during open hours. You think
Yes.
like, all right, when they're closed and no one's, no, they did.
Right, right? All movies train you to say they're going to wear like stealth suits that are all blacked out. They're going to ski masks on. But what's more suspicious than that? Right? They might as well
Seriously.
wear the old black and white striped shirts with a bag over their shoulder and sneak like this. You know? Like,
Yeah, man. That's the modern day burglar look, you know?
yes.
It's a truck that has a retractable ladder and it's going all the way up to a very high second floor. And it's just out in the open, middle of the street, very obvious. So is the play here, I'm thinking, to just try and blend in. Oh, we were part of a maintenance team, or we were called in to service the window or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's basically hiding in plain sight. These trucks are pretty common throughout Paris. You know, it is an extension ladder, much like you'd see on an American fire truck. It also has a box, like a little bucket on it, very similar to a cherry picker, and it slides right up the ladder. It's not super fast, not super slow, but enough to get the job done. Like I said, in and out in 8 minutes. And oftentimes this is used to carry heavy furniture, so it has no problem with carrying a couple guys up and down a second-story window here in the streets of Paris. The crew reportedly stole this particular truck from a nearby worksite and were disguised themselves as construction workers, wearing not a blacked out stealth suit, but rather high-vis vests. They had hard hats on. These guys were literally hiding in plain sight. And you know what they say, if you're wearing a high-vis vest and a hard hat and a clipboard, you walk around with confidence, you can kind of get anywhere.
That's very true. I mean, fake it till you till you make it type situation.
Yes.
And so, I don't know, like, you could test this out in like an everyday life, you know? There's been parties I've gone to, or just events, or maybe places in general where it's like, maybe I'm not supposed to go in through this entrance, or maybe they're checking some people. But if you just walk in, you're like, I know I'm supposed to be here. If I look like I'm questioning it, even though I know I'm supposed to be here, then they're gonna be like, hey, what's your name? Are you on the list or whatever? But if you walk in, it's like, I am supposed to be here. You know, that confidence, they see that. People can see that, and they see it, and they feel it, and then you're like, okay, you're good to go. So
Right. And I do have an image of someone's video. They filmed vertically of this coming down, I believe, after the heist. So if you want to take a look at that second image, this is 2 of the crew members coming down, I believe, after the heist. But it is interesting because it is said that a lot of construction was happening on and around the Louvre. And you can't imagine that every staff member knows every particular crew. And so, yeah, they're walking with confidence. And so a lot of people off the street are like, yep, just more construction happening on a historic building. This happens. Most of the staff is probably going, I don't know, someone somewhere signed off on this. But, you know, it's part of the genius, I would say.
that's just wild to me. Yeah, I mean, you're just blending right in, you know? It's so obvious, but why wouldn't you just blend right in? And if there's so much construction going down, things are happening, you're good to go. So it's smart.
It is interesting, too, that they did this at 9:30, just 30 minutes after opening. I've been listening to a few interviews of security experts, whether it be cybersecurity or more physical security, and they say that if they're going to hit a building, usually the opening hours are the best time to do it. Not that this is advice, but because the facility is so focused on organizing who is going where and maybe minor security issues rather than macro huge, like this is something that doesn't happen literally every year, every decade. This happens rarely, something like
Right.
this. So not a lot of people are anticipating this or expecting this level of a heist. And so to do that right first thing in the morning when there's patrons around that are kind of distracting otherwise the security, you know, it's been said that that is a good point. It becomes a human shield. The security starts to focus on the people's safety when angle grinders start buzzing through the window, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though, right? Is the fact that also who's going to check it, you know? If someone's doing that, people are going to be focused on their job. They're not going to want to run around and think, okay, let me go add more to my plate and see what's going on with these guys and get them certified or whatever, or double check that they're supposed to be here. You just think, okay, someone's doing that. Someone down the line, up the chain, signed off on it, and we're good to go.
And I think that's why going as fast as they did was so paramount, right? And we'll talk about the speed and everything, but again, I can't reiterate enough. They were in and out in less than 8 minutes. That's wild.
That's fast. That's like, what is his authority response times, like 4 minutes? Something like that?
I actually don't know that. Christian, I'm curious if you have that offhand, if there's an average, or maybe if we have the response time from the police for this. I mean, we'll continue the timeline, but I'm very curious about that.
But yeah, I'm curious about that because it's got to be either in line with the police response time or just double of it, which is just really fast.
Yeah.
8 minutes is gone in a heartbeat. You know
it really
what I mean?
is. A lot can happen in 8 minutes and it can go by quick. So while Christian takes a look at that, the robbers pulled up this truck, took it to the second level, rode it up, and then two of them, now masked, used angle grinders to break open the window, which triggered the first alarm. They then entered what's called the Galerie d'Apollo, or in English, the Gallery of Apollo, which houses the collection of royal jewels and diamonds, among many other things. It is a beautiful hall, and so I pulled up several images. Thank you to the BBC for the first one, and the Louvre website itself for the second two. So please pull up all three of the images, Fredo, that I have here under C. So C1 is from the BBC. It's a high-level view, looking kind of a little off from south. I believe this is from like southeast-ish. And you can see the entire Louvre, you can see where the Louvre Pyramid is, and then you can see where the Gallery of Apollo is. And that river that runs along the street is kind of going west by northwest. And that's where they parked, that's where they pulled up. And then you can also see the jewel cases that were in the middle of the gallery there from both angles.
It's a beautiful gallery. Oh my goodness. Painted ceilings and everything. Architecture to the walls, to the displays.
They got in through the window. First alarm goes off. They then used the angle grinder to access two different display cases, triggering the second alarm. And what I'm hearing recently is that one of these thieves seemed to act with intent and precision. They were able to, per eyewitness accounts, quickly grind their way into one of the cases, while the other one kind of seemed to go at it hacksaw-like. It was a little bit less precise, less familiar, but it showed at least one of them had done something like this before, that they were moving with cold confidence.
So maybe they both weren't trained the same way. They're just like, okay, they had the overarching idea or plan, and then once they got in, they didn't quite attack it the same way. It's a little weird because you think that they would have done some tours, get a lay of the land, maybe take some video footage. Oh my god, look at that, I'm gonna post it on my Instagram reel, and then go, okay, this is how we're gonna attack it, and how we do it as efficiently as possible. But then you have two different people going at it in two different ways.
Right. So this kind of implies that maybe one has a history of doing something like this, being able to cut into these cases, while the other one was kind of more physically smashing into it to cut the hole open. But yeah, I mean, I will say, knowing that the four detainees all kind of have some level of experience or history with crime, that, yeah, it's probably just a familiarity thing. But you're totally right. I mean, I'm sure they cased the joint. They have driven by multiple times. I wouldn't be surprised if they had walked these galleries and really knew this building top to bottom, because a lot of things line up that seem to imply they either had immaculate timing and kind of got lucky, or they just knew a few things and decided that, hey, let's just go for it.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Before you jump back in,
yes,
to speak to what you were asking about average response time, I couldn't really find anything on how quickly it took authorities to get there for this robbery in particular, so I was trying to look and see if there's an average response time for authority calls in Paris or emergency calls in Paris or France in particular. Not really finding any like concrete data. There's a lot of anecdotal statements of people saying, like, there are people quoting figures but aren't providing sources, so take this, as you will. But people are saying that it's about 10 to 15 minutes on average. And then just to have some type of official data for reference, in the US, research conducted for the Department of Homeland Security said that the average response time is 10 minutes. So maybe that 10 to 15 is pretty accurate for France as well.
Interesting.
Wow.
That's a good check, Fredo. I mean,
Damn.
it implies that there's a knowledge like, hey, we only have so much time, get what we can and be done.
Yeah, so then that's right in line with the response time. Plus, they might have had like a little bit of leeway on top of that. And so it's pretty good. 8 minutes when the average response time might be like, what, 10 to 15? Yeah.
Yeah, you're under for sure. And that's assuming that they're called instantly from like the moment you start.
Which I would think that they were because of the fact that like there's like alarms that were triggered. You'd have to think that would be like an instant send right to the authorities type situation, not someone just being like, oh my God, help us. We're watching someone rob this place. But also you said there were eyewitnesses. So were there people literally just like everyday public people just touring and then like doing their thing, and then all of a sudden these guys breaking through the window and they're just like, and it's like, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah, there was about 20 people more or less is what was estimated to be in the room. And once they heard those noises, the museum attendant that was in the room with them shouted, literally, everyone get out, ushered everybody to safety, closed the doors, and that almost creates another barrier for then security to come figure out what's going on.
That's true. Instead of yelling, what could have been, they can't stop us all.
Everyone to the window, run to the sound.
Stop us all.
Yeah, but I won't be in front. I won't be in front.
I won't be in front, but like you go first. I'll be like 3 rows behind you.
Right.
But they can't stop us all.
Right, they can't stop us all. And then it's just the museum attendant running, thinking everyone's behind him, and they're gone.
Yeah, everyone's gone. Ain't nobody stepping up.
Yeah.
This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Shady Rays. Let's talk gifts. Not the kind that get tossed in a drawer, but the kind that actually get used and appreciated. The holidays are coming fast, and Shady Rays sunglasses are an easy win. Every pair is polarized, durable, and lightweight. They've got a ton of great-looking, high-performance styles that hold up no matter what you throw at them. And the price is way less than you'd expect for the quality. And here's what sets them apart. If you lose or break your shades, Shady Rays has your back with their lost and broken protection. No hassle, just a solid guarantee. So whether you're picking up a pair for someone on your list or grabbing one for yourself, Shady Rays makes gifting simple. Quality built, looks great, and actually worth it. I have a pair of Shady Rays and I love them. I think they're so stylish and slick. They're a deep blue and I love busting them out in the sunlight, especially here in Austin, Texas, where the sun is always shining. They come in clutch all the time. Start your holiday gifting early and head to shadyrays.com and use code REDWEB for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Aura Frames. If you're also a last-minute shopper, you know that familiar feeling. Shelves are empty and ideas are running low. Aura Frames is the solution with a gift that feels personal. I got my mom an Aura frame for Christmas last year and she loved it. We were able to preload a bunch of family and pet photos for her, and then she was able to easily add her own over time, and she's continually adding more and more, and it couldn't be happier. Upload unlimited photos and videos. Just download the Aura app and connect to Wi-Fi. And preload photos before it ships like we did. Keep adding from anywhere, anytime. And you can even personalize your gift, adding a message before it arrives. Share photos and videos effortlessly, straight from your phone all year long. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code REDWEB at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code REDWEB. This deal is exclusive to Task Force members and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, so they cut through the window, they made it to these display cases, they cut into these, and there's a lot to look at in this room, but they go for these particular jewels, and in particular they steal 8 pieces of jewelry in total, and I do have another image for you if you want to take a look at this. This comes from ABC News, but per the BBC and Reuters, the items were all from the 19th century and once belonged to French royalty or imperial rulers, and it all included, I'm going to break it down, but before I break down each individual item, I want you to react, because this is a lot. What are you seeing?
There's a lot of jewelry here.
Yeah.
Well, a handful, but they are fancy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about like everything has a diamond on it.
Every square inch is diamond for sure.
Everything is covered diamonds, sapphires, and pearls, and I'm looking at an evaluation here. 102 million.
Yeah, dude. I thought you were gonna guess and be like, at least $50, dude.
At least 50. I mean, like $1.50 at least.
$1.50
on the aftermarket.
Yeah. Yeah, 102 million. That's US currency, by the way.
102 million.
Yeah.
There's the Empress bow has 2,438 diamonds.
Yeah. So in no particular order, here's what you're looking at. You have a brooch known as the reliquary brooch. You have a tiara, a necklace, and one of the earrings from a sapphire collection that belonged to Queen Marie Amélie and Queen Hortense. You have an emerald pair of earrings and an emerald necklace that belonged to Empress Marie Louise, a tiara and a brooch. This is a separate brooch, styled like a large bodice knot, and that belonged to Empress Eugenie, and that was the wife of Napoleon III. And finally, they attempted to steal Empress Eugenie's crown, but two things happened. On one hand, they didn't cut the hole big enough, is what I understand, and so they had to crush it to get it through the hole. And then on the way out, I believe it was outside. I want to say it was outside, but on the way out, they dropped it. And so they kind of fled without it. So that wasn't with them, but I have an image of that crown. It's the next one for you. And that one's a lot more gold oriented with some like velvets. Still, obviously, lots of diamonds.
That's a crown.
That's a crown.
That's
right
a crown. It's the big puffy fan out thing. And if it isn't covered in diamonds, it's got gold. Like,
yeah.
Damn, man.
Silver and gold.
It's like prehistoric rapper type stuff where it's just like everything is, every inch is blinged out, dude. Like
it's blinged to the nines.
Holy,
for sure,
it's so unnecessary.
Listen, they knew what they were doing in the 19th century, apparently.
It's true.
A lot of these were wedding gifts. A lot of these were royalty and passed down and what have you, but it's excessive. It's gaudy. I want to say that they went for all the small stuff that held a lot of diamonds and sapphires and emeralds and pearls, and a lot of crowns were left behind. So it is interesting that they grabbed a crown almost because it is so much bigger. The tiaras are surprisingly small when you see them in the case. And so it is interesting that one of them maybe went for the crown and the other one's like, screw it, it's small, whatever. There's not enough diamonds on that. Let's go for the stuff that's basically all diamonds. Yeah, I don't know. But in total, as you pointed out, these jewels, these precious gems, and the historical artifacts in general, I should say, are estimated to be about 88 million euro or 102 million US currency.
That's a lot, man.
That's a good amount.
That's so much money that you just take a sliver. You can take a piece of that, give it away, take a piece of that. Everyone that is in your inner circle is rich. Then take the rest of it and like invest it and make money for you. You never got to work again, and you're living a good lavish life.
Yep. And if you piecemeal this out, that's enough headroom to take it to any old pawn shop. You could take that to the Pawn Stars. They say best I could do 2 million, and you're like, well, whatever. That's still good.
Still good.
There's a lot of headroom on that.
Yeah, I'll take whatever. I mean, you're coming out on top.
So obviously after collecting the loot, the two thieves then descended down the lift, which is the video that we have from a witness, and they ran towards the other two who were on lookout, and they proceeded to escape on motorized scooters. Again, this is where eyewitness accounts point out two different things. One of the individuals kind of hopped almost cleanly, George Clooney style, into the bucket, whereas the other one almost dove in, a little cattywampus, a little like chaotic. I'm picturing now his legs up in the air as the thing's going down, but
kind of kicking. I think the wild thing is that since it was in broad daylight and everyone has a high resolution camera in their pocket and it's already in their hand, most likely, not even in their pocket. Let's be honest. Everyone has it in their hand. They're actively using it at all times. That there's actual, we looked earlier, there's screenshot of them on like in the bucket, like.
Yeah, we got him.
It being used. Like you literally see them. We have video footage. Also, wow, that's still a little blurry in this day and age. That's crazy.
It's wild.
It's crazy.
These compression algorithms are getting out of hand, okay? Send the full quality to the news station. Don't go through social media to then get that ripped. This looks like it was downloaded about 15,000 times before it made its way to the ABC reporting.
Come on, man. What year is it?
Right. I mean, when Samsung can zoom in 100 times and you could see a guy picking his nose from the other side of an NFL stadium.
Right.
Come on. Let's get these guys. What do they look like? Zoom in. Okay, so I mentioned several times now how quick this was. Less than 8 minutes. but only half of that time was inside the building, which I think is mind-blowing.
That's a very fast 4 minutes.
Yeah, they knew what they were after. It feels very intentional.
Yeah, they might. I mean, come on. Like, why would you not case the joint? You know what I mean? Why would you not just sit there and go, okay, let's do a tour. Let's invest the $20 each or whatever to go in and do the tour. Homework, everyone. We're going to walk in and we're going to see where everything is at and take video. And
field trip.
Yeah, it's not going to be an issue at all whatsoever.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you, you know? And so, I mean, you go in, I don't know, you walk into your house. How quickly can you grab the important stuff if you planned it out? Real quick. You're in and out.
Right.
Done.
And once they were out, they took motorized scooters and hopped off. Those things can zigzag in and out of traffic, very common in Paris, hard to track down. Even with a large circuit of CCTV cameras across the city, I'm sure it'd be difficult. Some outlets reported that they were on motorcycles. Most, I believe, mentioned motorized scooters. But yeah, in and out, got what they needed. Eyewitness reports state that inside the Gallery of Apollo, they heard 3 loud bangs and then a piercing sound before all this kicked off. It's unclear what these banging noises might have been. Maybe the ladder banging against the ledge. Could have been all sorts of kerfuffle as they got off the ladder, out of the bucket, especially with the guy who's a little bit awkward, a little bit clumsy.
Yeah.
This is his first day on the job, I guess.
Well, I'd be surprised if that's the guy that was just hacking away at it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Using it like an axe instead of a power tool.
Exactly. Not finessing it whatsoever.
No style points, but it is assumed that the piercing sound was that angle grinder kind of powering on. It has quite the sound to it. So of course, as I told you, after hearing these sounds, the museum attendants saying, everyone get out, ushers about 20 people out of the room, and immediately afterward, the police are called to investigate. So they're gone, police are on the scene, and at the scene of the crime, there's actually quite a bit left behind. This is the juxtaposition between intelligent, quick-moving, thoughtful plan and the clumsy, you're leaving things behind that can get you caught kind of stuff. It is interesting that we see a little bit of both. So they found that the robbers left behind several pieces of evidence, including 2 angle grinders, a pair of gloves, gasoline, a blowtorch, a blanket, a walkie-talkie, and of course the crown that they dropped on their way out. It was also reported that the robbers attempted to set fire to their electric vehicle after they exited, but they were stopped by museum staff. And I think that this would be the bucket truck, essentially. I believe that was electric. Then, about an hour after the robbery took place, the Louvre announced that it would be closing its doors for the rest of the day. The museum then remained closed for about 3 days and reopened on October 22nd. However, as of today, recording this in the middle of November, the Gallery of Apollo has remained closed. No estimates on when it might open again, or when this investigation obviously will conclude, but maybe here in December, maybe it's open. We don't know. There's no estimates as of right now. So that's the heist as it went down. One other thing that I wanted to point out that I thought was really interesting, and this actually comes from a Hank Green interview with a security expert. So shout out to Hank Green, I'm a big fan. But in their discussion, they're talking about all the ways that the Louvre kind of had to balance security, and I'll mention a little bit about that as we talk about the security part of the investigation. But when it came to the security cases, I was always under the assumption that these things would be bulletproof, that nobody could just go smash and grab.
Yeah.
But again, this comes into the balance where, well, on one hand, they need to be security. They need to be prepared for low-level theft. They obviously can't be prepared for heists of this caliber every single day. But at the same time, if there's a tragedy to happen, if a fire were to break out, they needed this glass to be accessible by firemen, so that way all of these historic artifacts could be moved and secured rather than being destroyed as well.
Interesting. So it needs to be a level breakable.
Right. And so that's where, and you'll find this as a trend, I think, throughout the rest of the Louvre's security, is because they had to balance accessibility and security with other elements that obviously it can't just be a vault, you know, for a couple other reasons, which, I mean, to my colloquial knowledge, I would have been like, yeah, vault it up. But, you know, even if you put a vault in a fire, depending on what it is, inside that vault will heat up and any sort of paper elements will certainly be destroyed. Metal can certainly melt, especially if it's a precious metal like silver. And so there's a lot of other things that they had to balance. And I'm, again, not as well versed on those level of securities as his guest was in talking about that. But it's so interesting. And a lot of that makes it seem, again, like they knew a lot of these things, that they knew about the limit of the CCTV coverage, that they knew that this glass could be smashed, that they knew if they went for these particular gems, they could piece them apart and sell them individually rather than going for something big that would be nearly impossible to sell. Like, who do you sell the Mona Lisa to, right?
Right. I mean, it'd have to be like an aftermarket, like black market type of art dealer, right? That's like out here buying stolen dinosaur bones or something like that, and they have this gnarly collection that's not public and no one can know about. Yeah, I mean, the thing too is, for better or for worse, there's just so much information out there on the internet that's readily available, right? You have people that are like like high top class military being like, well, we used to use these tactics and we used to do that, and they're like on a TikTok reel, and it's like, okay, well, now I know. Like, you can easily find on like a reel CIA tactics to like get someone to talk to you or tell if they're lying or things like that, you know what I mean? And so it wouldn't surprise me if there's just like a complete breakdown of like, this is the CCTV camera that we use for this place, and or like they went, cased it, saw the camera, took a picture, popped it in like Google image search, something like that, got the model number, and then there was like 10 videos online of like, this is, you know, what the camera looks like compared to other like security cameras, and this is the quality, and etc. Like, all the information is so readily available. Everyone in the world is just like looking to be a content creator, looking to educate, which is great, but also that does mean in return you can find so much information that you would not have been able to find like in the 90s, like in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no, 100%. Information is so accessible. And on top of that, again, I'm getting kind of ahead of myself, but you're touching on it, so I want to talk about it. Like, people have talked about the security audits that have happened at the Louvre being leaked to the media, and how the Louvre has a new director of security as of 2021, and how recently, apparently, they announced that they were going to upgrade the security at the Louvre. And broadcasting that kind of information could spur on someone or a group like this who maybe they had a plan, maybe they just happen to have inside knowledge, whether they were employees or they cased the joint or whatever it is, and that spurs them on to go jump into it. What I want to say also, as I'm about to dive into the kind of security element of all of this, is that there was a heist back in 1976 in this same gallery where people also entered in the second story window. And so it's not like this is the first time. So some of these elements are almost repeated. And so it's interesting that it was able to happen again, is all I want to say. How they knew that there were these vulnerabilities in this room. I don't want to say that the Louvre is just like culpable and that this is entirely their fault, because again, there's a balancing act of safety and security that has to happen here.
Yes.
And again, I can't shout it out enough. Please go see Hank Green's video. In that video, he interviews a security expert named Sherry Davidoff. Go check that out. Very, very interesting. Anyway, let's dive into the security of this, because there's a lot to talk about, and it is so mind-boggling as to how this happened, how this unfolded beyond the details of the heist itself. So many wonder, of course, how this heist, or a heist of this caliber, was possible at the Louvre of all places, which is regarded as one of the most famous museums in the world. It's also the most visited museum in the world. Just last year in 2024, there were 8.7 million visitors just within that year.
Jesus.
And it's also considered to be the largest museum in the world if you look at the exhibition space itself. So it is 72,735 square meters, or just shy of 783,000 square feet. Puppy's big.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the photo earlier, I mean, the thing is massive. Museums are still popping. You know what I mean? It's wild how popular even throughout different generations museums are. Where people are just like, I just want to go check out some old history and just like walk around and look at stuff. I'm like, go for it.
I mean, with that level of fame, with that level of visitation, so many people being there, a lot of people assumed that the museum staff would have all the security, all the surveillance necessary to catch these robbers immediately. However, of course, we know that's not the case. And during the investigation, it was found that the security at the Louvre was severely lacking. And I won't even be able to do an exhaustive, detailed list of everything, but there are some main pieces I want to talk about. Surprisingly, like, one of the things is the museum only had one surveillance camera near the exterior of the Gallery of Apollo, and it was facing west, which did not capture the arrival of the robbers who, like I said, approached from the east. The truck with the ladder coming up is facing west, so they came from the east. And it's almost like they knew that, especially since there was a previous theft of I think Charles the 10th. His gem-studded sword was stolen back in 1976. Now that's something that's very difficult to sell. How do you sell something that's so obviously that item?
Right, like that wouldn't be easy. That'd have to be like a like off the internet, like black market type of sell at that point. But when there's all these different robberies, I mean, again, information's so readily available, right? Everyone's breaking down, this is how they did it. This was the response time. You know what I mean? These are the tools that they use. This is how they got caught, or this is how, you know, they evaded, or whatever it is. And it's just like, damn. Like, okay. I guess. Yeah, I guess. Now you just know so much.
Yeah. And it's also tough when you're like, well, you did a previous, or a heist happened here. Why you got the one camera? Who's to say lightning's going to strike twice? But if you don't bolster up your security where it did happen, does that just leave you vulnerable? It sounds like the Louvre knew about this vulnerability, but then didn't really like up the game for quite some time until like the last 15 years or so. That's obviously a hole. And so some people assume that maybe these thieves knew this information, so they knew that they could approach from a blind spot. Because again, the only video we have of them comes from somebody who happened to zoom in, happened to be there to film them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with any company, right? It's just like, oh, there needs to be change. And like, how slow does that roll out? It's like molasses, right? It's like, oh, this event happened, or we changed this policy. And it's like, you know, be in place over the course of the next 6 months. And it's like, okay. And I understand there's a lot of moving parts and you have to sign off on things, etc. But things move slow. So even if they wanted to up their security, it always takes forever.
It's just that bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And so there's elements like that make sense, and I'm, understanding for. Again, there's also the security balanced with safety and all of that. But then there's like shockingly weak elements that, according to museum employees that had knowledge of the security system, apparently the video surveillance system itself, the password was Louvre. Like, it wasn't like Louvre with some numbers. It was like easily guessable.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
What?
And apparently another one of the passwords used in the security system was simply the name of the contractor that they used. So something like Thames. I don't remember the name offhand, but like very simple, like, oh, what's the name on the side of the box? Oh, Philip. Okay, type
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Obviously, you wouldn't think to guess that, so maybe the simplicity of it is the security, but it's also brute forceable. You put a bot that can scan through a bunch of passcodes and it will crack that in seconds, maybe minutes. But this is all indicative of some of the outdated security infrastructure, which of course they said that they were going to upgrade, which again might have spurred on this heist. But apparently some of the network components for this security infrastructure were running on highly vulnerable software like Windows Server 2003. So you would think that it wouldn't. But it's costly and it takes a lot of upgrade, and the same thing happened with airlines not long ago.
Yeah, but for like the biggest museum, one of the millions of people coming through.
But who's expecting a heist like this?
Yeah.
Maybe now you should.
Yeah.
Maybe now you should when this stuff can get leaked so easily. The fact that we know all of this stuff, that's not good. I don't know. I mean, I'm with you, but at the same time, earlier this year, we saw an entire airline kind of get wiped out overnight when, was it Cloudflare? There was like a network issue and all of their systems went down. And so flights were basically grounded, and that lasted a weekend essentially, with knock-on effects, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever the software was, whatever the airline was, I think it was Southwest, but neither here nor there. But you see the ramifications of not investing in, again, I don't know. It's easy to say in hindsight.
Yeah,
it's
it
expensive
really
to do. If you have no reason to do it, it's hard to say, let's commit this multi-million dollars towards this thing that we've never had issues for. So you hate to see it need a moment, but here's your moment.
This episode of Red Web is sponsored by Uncommon Goods. The holidays are almost here, and if you still have your names on the list, don't panic. Uncommon Goods makes holiday shopping stress-free and joyful with thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can't find anywhere else. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the US. Many are crafted by independent artists and small businesses, so every gift feels special and thoughtfully chosen. I love the variety of gifts that Uncommon Goods offers. They have things ranging from artwork to recipe books to dishware to food to even things like a tabletop pinball machine. It's incredible, and you will not be running low on options. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3.1 million to date. So don't wait. Make this holiday the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/redweb. That's uncommongoods.com/redweb for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
All right, so the president and director of the Louvre, Laurence Descartes, said that due to underinvestment, the museum has a lack of perimeter security guards. We've also seen that the car could just drive straight up. This is an issue with European cities in particular because everything is so tightly gridded up that you kind of can't, a museum can't cordon off an entire street if that's a high traffic street. But we might start seeing that now. Ever since the Oklahoma bombing, federal building was taken out and because a vehicle was able to be driven up. Now, if you go to any federal building, there's a lot of barriers that prevent a vehicle from getting near it. And it's possible that we might see this now, but otherwise this was an active street. And so people could just drive right up. And yeah, like he's saying, they can't invest in just having countless people walk around the perimeter if there's no reason for them to see that they need that.
That's true. It's hard to tell. Again, and everything needs to be in balance. That's the thing, right? And so even though you might do something that's super beneficial to prevent something like this, it might cause more issues for the city or the people, etc. And so it's a balance.
Right.
It's a give and take.
Yeah. So I'm not, envious of the challenge they're in. There are some things that it makes sense to upgrade, which they have done. They've greatly increased the number of CCTV cameras they have throughout the facility. I believe from 2019 to 2024, it is said that they increased, I think, double, maybe 50%. Don't quote me on that. I know what they have now, according to CNN. The museum has about 465 galleries and 432 CCTV cameras to monitor the entire space. That's of 2024. And so you're like, well, that's almost one camera per gallery. But I've shown you the picture of these galleries. They're huge. You also have the hallways. You also have the outdoors. And so you have a lot of galleries that go unwitnessed, essentially. There's no record. And if somebody cases the place, they walk through these galleries, they go, there's not a single camera in here.
Yep.
Now, since the heist, it appears, like I said, that confidential security audit reports have been leaked online, detailing these security flaws and more. It's since gone to the press, and this further highlights the Louvre's vulnerabilities. But with all that said, it's easy to see the genius of the planned heist, right? We've talked about it through it, but let's kind of break it down. A vehicle that would be ignored, dressing in construction worker outfits. They're able to use a normal traffic street, pull up to the side, and look like they're doing construction on a building that is under heavy construction, at least during this time period. They kick this off within 30 minutes of opening the museum itself, so the staff is focused on the patrons, the tourists, the safety of everybody else, rather than off hours where all eyes would be directly on them. They take advantage of the building's lack of vehicle barriers, I mentioned that, and the blind spot maybe that they might have known about with the CCTV cameras. They also take advantage of the cases that have a security measure so they can be secured if a fire breaks out or if for some reason the building's going haywire. All of these things, again, it's either great luck that all these things coincided, or it's study, that these individuals had done something like this before or knew what they were doing and planned out something pretty strongly and then made some clumsy mistakes along the way. And speaking of clumsy mistakes, this is where the DNA evidence comes in.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you talked about like equipment being left behind and everything. So I was like, ooh, what are we pulling? What DNA evidence are we pulling here?
So, as I've mentioned, best laid plans can go awry, and when police arrived, they found all these items left behind. And they immediately began taking samples for DNA evidence. And I think this is really fascinating because it didn't necessitate tracking down the vehicles as they ran off into the city. Without DNA evidence and without a DNA evidence archive to access, these guys would have been in the wind, and it would have been a very long fight to track down where these scooters went, who these guys were, what eyewitnesses saw, because I would say maybe a block down the road, immediately they start to blend into traffic. They're just two guys on a scooter, and you see that all over the place. Okay, so they have these items, and in total, they submitted about 150 forensic samples to be tested. Traces of DNA were found in several places, including one of the gloves left behind, obviously a hand being in that, the basket on the truck that carried the men up to the window itself, and then on one of the getaway scooters that was found. Using the French DNA database, this is one of the first times that we, in our unsolved mystery experience, get to actually have this happen. But using the French DNA database, they were able to link 4 people to the crime, as their DNA was already in the system for previous arrests.
I was about to say, they would have to have been already in the system, right?
Yes. So yeah, that system is predicated rather on knowing that somebody's already done something. But in cases like this, bang, it shines.
It does. And what an easy way to just be like, there it is. Oh,
Right.
Man, look.
Kind of refreshing too. After all of our unsolved cases where people go, I went to the DNA database and they were a ghost.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, how does that part slip up, I guess, in a way?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're in the system, they have your DNA. Then at that point, it's like, don't leave anything behind. You think that'd be like a super big priority.
It's interesting that they would have known this, I would think. So you're raising a great point. And the only way around that is to flee faster, right? To get out of the city, to avoid extradition wherever you gotta go, right?
Yeah.
Rather than linger, because then you can just be pinned down. Unless, I don't know, you're hiding out somewhere where they couldn't really track you, have no history of it. But this seems to be the hole in their plan. So like I said, those that are in custody right now remain unnamed. The police have arrested 4 people in relation to the crime. Let's break down each individually. First, we have a 34-year-old man who was found at the airport on October 25th. He, of course, was attempting to flee France, and he had bought a one-way ticket to Algeria. He was an Algerian native who had lived in France for the past 15 years. And I will say, we know a lot of details about this guy, so he might be unnamed, but I feel like it's either going to be revealed eventually or this detailing can help identify. But over these 15 years, he was a known garbage collector and delivery driver, but he had also been convicted of crimes before, once for theft and a few others for minor traffic violations. And because of this, his DNA was found in the system, and his DNA in particular was on the getaway scooter. So he must have been one of the drivers, perhaps. Now, during his custody hearing, he did admit partial involvement of the crime. So maybe he wasn't the one that did the smash and grab, but he was the lookout and the getaway driver. So he's still involved. Next up, we have a 39-year-old man who was arrested in his home by police in the Paris suburb of Aubervilliers, which was, I believe, the same day, October 25th. So he was arrested in his home in the suburbs, and he was also a delivery driver as well as a taxi driver, and he also had a criminal record. It's been theorized that maybe these two men knew each other from also delivering, maybe they knew each other from work, though ultimately this part is unclear, and maybe this will come to light eventually as the case evolves. But in total, he has 15 incidents on his record, 2 of those being theft-related. And for one of those theft-related crimes, he admitted to ramming his car into an ATM. Now, his DNA was found on the window of the Louvre, and so it's presumed that he was one of the ones who went up, obviously, to do the breaking in. He seems to have experience with theft. Maybe he was the one who was cutting clean. I don't know. Either way, he also admitted partial involvement during his custody hearing. This leads us to the next 2, which it starts to get a little bit more colorful. So police then arrested a 37-year-old man and his 38-year-old longtime partner, a female partner, on October 29th. This was in the Paris suburb of Seine-Saint-Denis. So, let's break it down. His partner was arrested because her DNA was found at the scene. It's possible, though, they are saying, that this was what's called transfer DNA, and it doesn't confirm her direct involvement in the crime. This would essentially be the swapping of, someone's DNA to a person or object through indirect contact.
Oh, I wonder if they have an alibi then.
That's a great idea. I wonder if they have an alibi.
Yeah.
I don't know that offhand.
Damn, that sucks. I'd hate to be like at the scene of a crime when I'm just chilling at home all weekend just because I've been swapping tongue with somebody.
Right. Maybe you high five someone on the street and then they go to break into the Louvre and your handprint's on it, But that seems to be maybe what's happened. We don't know for sure, but they're thinking maybe she's not directly involved. But while this may be the case, a judge has decided to keep her in pretrial detention due to concerns that, she still may be obviously directly involved, but she also could collude. She could build evidence to bring to the case. Otherwise, she may collude with other perpetrators. She could flee. There are many reasons in French law why the judge would decide to keep her detained just in case, right? They don't know one way or another. The 37-year-old, however, has 11 incidents on his record, and 10 of those are related to theft. So he's got quite the rap sheet. One of those thefts he committed with the aforementioned 39-year-old suspect, who was second in line here that I mentioned. Now, this person, the 37-year-old man, his DNA was found on the lift that carried them up to the balcony. Unlike the other two, both he and his girlfriend have denied any involvement with the robbery, probably trying to wait things out and figure out what could happen. Now, it is worth noting that 3 others were also detained on October 29th. Whether they were related or not, we don't know, but they were then released without charge soon thereafter. So this leaves us with 4 individuals in custody, 2 admitting partial fault, 2 saying they had nothing to do with it, both of their DNA, all of their DNA kind of at the scene or on something. But police believe that there's at least 1 suspect at large. I know that 4 were at the crime, and so they're basically saying that the woman here might not be involved, and if not, there is somebody else out there. Either way, they've also openly posited that they don't believe that this is part of any sort of organized crime gang, that this heist was something that they organized themselves, and it's not some sort of bigger event.
Got it. Not some like huge, we're gonna hit all these different joints and come back and reap the wealth, or we'll plan our next one. It's just like, yeah, we got together and decided we wanted to try and make a ton of money and flee.
Right. It just seems like kind of maybe a one-off. A heck of a one-off.
Heck of a one-off.
So while these suspects are in custody, the precious jewels themselves have still not been recovered, and experts say recovery at this point is unlikely. It is quite probable that these pieces were dismantled and that the gems would be sold individually, and that is why these particular pieces were stolen. Nothing with greater historical provenance, but rather tiaras, necklaces, brooches, things that could have the gems pulled apart and sold for pieces. You know, there's north of 7,380 diamonds among the many sapphires, emeralds, and pearls in this collection. So there's a lot that they could just pop off and take away. And what's interesting is that, you know, modern diamonds have micro engravings on them. And so you can kind of trace them. They have the GIA number on them. You can see kind of where they've been and what they've been up to. These level of historical diamonds may or may not have those. And so it's been, I believe, posited that, you know, maybe moving forward, that historical diamonds and gems of this nature might have engravings laser etched on them. So that way, if these diamonds ever show up again on the market, they can be tracked to maybe who sold them. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that there'd be like unique engravings on diamonds, but then also if it's like an older piece, would they even do that? Because then they'd have to take the piece apart and then reapply it back on. And then it's also...
Yeah, I don't know if they could do it from afar. I don't know how laser etching is done. I imagine you could do it, especially on more prominent pieces without needing to take it off, but I don't know.
Yeah, but then also it's like the sanctity of the piece. Like, do you want to, you know, mess with it in any way, shape, or form? Like, I could see them being like, look, like this is the way it is, and we don't want to touch it. We want it to be its perfection.
Yeah, I mean, it would be microscopic, so it wouldn't really. But I can totally see people being kind of like, hey, that's history now. Let's not mess with it. But then you look at moments like this and you go, yeah, but messing with it could have helped to put a barcode on that thing. And
yeah, and then we could have been off to the races if any of it was piecemealed out, you know?
Yeah. Then again, I've had a bike stolen before and it has a serial number and I've given it to police. I'll never see that bike again. And police are never going to, you know.
No.
So
they're not going to be like, that's the bike that's on the list of bikes.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the guys.
Yeah,
it's very interesting. So that's pretty much everything we know about this heist. It is still shocking to many, obviously, that a robbery of this magnitude can happen. And it's left the world baffled. I love talking about these details, kind of maybe how it unfurled. I love kind of waxing poetic about the things that could happen because of this, the ramifications with security and everything. But it's the biggest heist that the museum has seen since 1911, when a man simply walked into the Louvre, I believe on like a closing day, but first thing in the morning, walked straight to the Mona Lisa, took it, put it in his white smock that all the employees wore. So he kind of, once again, walked under the radar, and then he just walked out with it under his arm. He was caught.
Yeah, but like, I mean, the fact that he was able to do that, period, is so wild to me. it's a modern day heist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this episode's so cool because one, it's a modern day heist, so modern that, it just happened. But then two, it's like, okay, then, we've covered how many heists in the past? What's the difference, right? How has technology helped or hindered? How complex was this compared to other heists? What was involved? Any technologies involved today that couldn't be used back then? So you can kind of like get this comparison in terms of like, oh, okay, this is how it was done back then. Doesn't seem too dissimilar to like today, to be honest. It seems kind of like back to the basics kind of theft here.
Yeah, it really does. It's super interesting. I mean, they hit up the same gallery as in 1976. They went through the same window as that same little heist. They dressed up, not like employees, but as people you would normally see on site as construction workers. Very similar to the 1911 heist, where the guy just dressed up in the white smock that everyone wore and walked with purpose. A lot of similarities.
A lot of similarities. It's not like what we thought in the movies, right? Where you'd be like, oh my God, they have these like little clear films on their fingertips and they got these like eyeglasses that are scanning and doing all these gnarly things and providing feedback and information to them. And no, none of that. They're just like, all right, we're going to grab a ladder, an extendo ladder, go up, start just smashing stuff and then get out of there on scooters.
Just on scooters, man. We're just scooting and booting downtown.
Not even like we took this to get on a boat or we jumped into the sewers. It's just, we just got a scooter and drove around.
Yeah, dude.
It's so simple comparatively to like what you think it would be in a movie.
I mean, the only modern elements kind of at play here are obviously the DNA database. That's definitely a more modern element. And the guy who happened to catch him in 480p on his modern smartphone. Zoomed in and enhanced, minus the enhanced.
Yeah.
So without the DNA, these guys would have scooted away. It would have been very similar to the Great Brinks security heist. We covered that a few weeks ago. If Task Force, you're looking for another heist, one of the biggest ones in American history, those guys were eventually caught. But it's similar how they can kind of just know the place, walk in, and get it done. Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's crazy, but it is what it is.
So, all right, we come to an end of another kind of decoded episode. Next week, we have another piece of folklore because, man, I'm into it. It's true crime meets folklore. But yes, we're kind of in the midst now of decoding December, where we have a little bit more answers. I feel like it's the season of giving, and I wanted to give you some answers this holiday season, Fredo. And so this one has a lot more answers to it. It's also something that's been on my mind. It's been so interesting to watch this from afar and see this reported on. More information, I'm sure, will come out over time. But as we come to a close, I want to shout out some of our task force members supporting us directly at redwebpod.com. Again, lots of exclusives, get the podcast ad-free, and lots of weekly drops just for you guys. But shout out to the newest elite task force member, Harry Mermaid, with the wonderful name, too.
I was like, oh, excuse me?
Yeah. Our buff scientists of the week, we've got Feege. And then, of course, our squonks of the week are G, Zarathustra, Andy Schrock, Azrael, and Gavin Day. Thank you all so much for the support. And Fredo, I'll see you right back here next Monday for yet another mystery.